For decades, Gene Hackman was a cinematic titan, a man whose very presence on screen could command attention with an effortless blend of intensity, vulnerability, and raw authenticity. From the gritty streets of the French Connection to the complex psychology of the conversation and the villainous charm of Lex Luthor and Superman, Hackman didn't just play roles, he became them. He wasn't just another Hollywood star. He was a craftsman, a storyteller, a force of nature. And then he vanished. In 2004, after starring in Welcome to Mooseport, a lighthearted comedy that seemed an unusual farewell for such a towering career, Hackman made a decision that stunned Hollywood. Without fanfare, without a farewell tour, or even so much as a dramatic final bow, he walked away. No retirement press conference, no sentimental tributes. He simply disappeared, retreating to the vast and peaceful landscapes of Santa Fe, New Mexico, with his wife, Betsy Arakawa. There, far from the flashing lights and suffocating demands of the industry, he embraced a life of quiet solitude. For years, fans and reporters speculated, why would a man at the peak of his legendary career simply stop? Was it health-related? Had he grown disillusioned with the industry? Or had he simply found something else that fulfilled him in a way acting no longer could? In a rare interview years later, Hackman offered a simple yet profound explanation. The business didn't excite me anymore. I'd done what I wanted to do. Unlike so many of his contemporaries, who continued acting well into old age, accepting roles that sometimes seemed beneath their once great stature, Hackman never looked back. There were no surprise cameos, no one last job nostalgia projects. Hollywood called again and again, offering lucrative deals and the chance to return in glory. He ignored them all. Instead, he found a new passion, writing. With the same discipline and commitment he had once poured into acting, Hackman turned to historical fiction, penning novels that allowed him to explore storytelling in a different form. He didn't seek validation or headlines. He didn't do book tours or relish in public praise. He simply wrote because he wanted to, because the creative spirit within him had merely shifted forms. Despite his absence from the silver screen, Hackman's presence never truly faded. Every now and then, a blurry paparazzi photo would surface, an aging but unmistakable figure, often seen biking through Santa Fe or enjoying a quiet moment outside a cafe. His hair had thinned, his once imposing frame had grown frailer, but his essence, the signature Hackman aura, remained. He refused interviews. He turned down offers that would have tempted even the most disciplined of retirees. Hollywood, a place notorious for its inability to let go of its icons, was forced to accept that Gene Hackman had chosen to leave, and no amount of nostalgia or money could bring him back. And perhaps that is what makes his story even more compelling. In an industry obsessed with comebacks, reboots, and endless reinvention, Hackman did something truly rare. He finished his story on his own terms. And yet when his lifeless body was found alongside his wife and dog, it sent shockwaves through Hollywood. A man who had spent 2 decades hiding from the world was suddenly back in the spotlight, but not in the way anyone had expected. For years, Gene Hackman lived a reclusive yet peaceful life in Santa Fe, New Mexico. But on that fateful morning, everything changed. It started like any other quiet day. A neighbor, accustomed to Hackman's routine walks, noticed something strange. His front porch light, usually off during the day, was still on. The air felt eerily still. Concerned, the neighbor approached the house and knocked. No response. A sense of unease crept in. Hackman, now in his 90s, had been seen less and less in recent months, his once vibrant presence fading into the shadows of his secluded life. The neighbor finally called the authorities. When they arrived, they weren't prepared for what they found inside. They found Gene Hackman lying on the floor. He was still wearing his sunglasses, and his cane was nearby. Details that suggest he may have collapsed unexpectedly. Despite the scene pointing to a sudden fall, the pathologist found no external injuries on either Hackman or his wife. Now, investigators are left to determine whether a medical episode led to his death or if there's another explanation waiting to be uncovered. Just a short distance away from where Gene Hackman's body was found, his wife, Betsy Arakawa, lay motionless on the bathroom floor. The discovery was both chilling and perplexing. Beside her, on the bathroom countertop, investigators noted a scattering of prescription bottles and loose pills. At first glance, it might have suggested an overdose, but upon closer examination, authorities found that the medications present, Tylenol, thyroid medication, and high blood pressure pills, were not typically associated with fatal overdoses. There was no clear indication that he had taken an excessive amount, nor any immediate evidence of foul play. The situation grew even more baffling when officers made another discovery: a deceased dog, lifeless inside its kennel, mere feet from Betsy's body. It was a disturbing detail that deepened the mystery, especially because two other dogs in the house were found alive and roaming freely. Why had only one of the pets succumbed alongside their owners, while the others remained unscathed? The eerie and selective nature of the deaths cast a shadow of uncertainty over the entire scene. The initial lack of answers led to rampant speculation. How could three lives be lost in the same home at nearly the same time without an apparent cause? Was this a tragic coincidence? A case of poisoning, either accidental or deliberate? Or was there something even more sinister at play? Something beyond what could be seen at first glance? At first, the most logical and immediate explanation pointed to carbon monoxide poisoning. The odorless, colorless gas has claimed countless lives in the past, silently infiltrating homes and depriving victims of oxygen until they drifted into unconsciousness, never to wake again. The theory gained even more traction when one of Hackman's daughters voiced concerns that toxic fumes might have been present in the house. Given Hackman and his wife's advanced age, could a slow gas leak have overwhelmed them without warning? Could the same lethal fumes have claimed their dog while somehow sparing the others? Determined to find answers, authorities launched an exhaustive investigation into this possibility. Fireplaces, vents, gas lines. Every potential source of contamination was scrutinized. Testing equipment was brought in to analyze air samples, and toxicology reports were expedited in hopes of shedding light on the situation. However, after meticulous testing, the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office reached a stunning conclusion. There were no traces of carbon monoxide anywhere in the home, nor in the bodies of Jean, Betsy, or their dog. With that possibility ruled out, investigators were left staring at an even greater enigma. If not gas poisoning, then what? Had both Jean and Betsy suffered simultaneous medical episodes by sheer coincidence? Was there an undiagnosed condition they shared, or an environmental factor that had yet to be identified? And what of their dog? Why had it perished while the others remained seemingly unaffected? Despite the lack of definitive answers, one thing became clear. Gene Hackman's final chapter had taken an unexpected and haunting turn. After decades of living in quiet retreat away from the spotlight, his name was now once again dominating headlines. But this time, it wasn't for his legendary career, nor for a long overdue tribute. It was for a mystery that still refused to be solved. And as the world waited for answers, one question remained. Would the truth ever come to light? Or would the final moments of Gene Hackman's life remain shrouded in uncertainty forever? The search for answers took a dramatic turn when investigators analyzed Gene Hackman's pacemaker, a silent witness to his final moments. Its data revealed a startling fact. Hackman had likely been deceased since February 17, 2025, 9 days before his body was found. Had Betsy been alive during those days? If so, why hadn't she called for help? The unanswered questions cast an eerie shadow over the case. Authorities hoped the pacemaker's data could shed light on what transpired in those lost hours. Then a chilling detail emerged. Initially, the house was thought to be locked, but deputies found the front door wide open. Had someone entered or left in a hurry? Or was it an oversight in a moment of crisis? There were no signs of forced entry, yet the unsettling discovery deepened the mystery. Renowned forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Baden weighed in, suggesting Hackman, 95, likely died of cardiac arrest due to pre-existing heart disease. But Betsy's fate remained unclear. Did she collapse in shock after finding her husband? The scattered medications on the bathroom counter and the death of only one dog raised further questions. Hollywood reeled from the shocking revelations. What seemed like a quiet passing had spiraled into a haunting mystery. Fans expected a simple explanation: old age, natural causes. But instead, they were left with more questions than answers. One thing was clear: the investigation was far from over.